All right, y'all, welcome to the show. I got a great one for you today. So in just a second, whoo, is this nice? Dave Smith, the well-known libertarian, he went on Breaking Points, and he's the first one I'm willing to give credit to for breaking with Trump for real, because not only does he apologize for supporting Trump, he also says Trump should be impeached over this war with Iran. So, ooh, that's a spicy clip. I love it. I can't wait to play it for you. So we'll talk about that. We also have Trump threatening to invade Democratic cities yet again. This comes just a few days after, remember, he went out there and said, you know, maybe we've gone too far and maybe we shouldn't arrest immigrants from hotels and from the service industry. And I'm getting a lot of phone calls of people saying maybe we should reel it in. And I think that's right. I think we should. He goes from that, immediately does a 180 and goes back to mass deportations, and we're going to go after all the major Democratic cities. So we'll talk about that. We have the world's smuggest Zionist hits a brick wall of facts. Libertarian Scott Horton has a field day with Leland Viller. Leland is also the guy that Crystal destroyed debating Israel a while ago. Then we have Trump pardoning a MAGA rioter who is now arguing that his child corn conviction should be overturned as a result of that pardon. We have Tucker going to war with Fox News, which is a glorious thing to see. We have some Marines that are revolting against Trump over their LA deployment, and we have just an astonishing report about how much money Trump made last year because of his corrupt deals. That is a wild story, y'all. It is wild. All right, so let's go ahead and get it started. So, and by the way, all the shameless plugs, you know the drill. Everybody subscribe. Everybody support the show on Patreon. Go subscribe to Corin's World so you can watch Kyle and Corin. Go subscribe to Crystal, Kyle and Friends on Substack. All right, let's get it. So Dave Smith pretty recently did this segment where he basically said, like, look, man, if Trump greenlights war with Iran, I will apologize for supporting him for the rest of my life. And I remember doing a segment at the time, and what I said was, hey, Dave, shouldn't you already be apologizing? Because Trump was a colossal warmonger in his first term. And one of Trump's, main things in his first term was being a warmonger. So for Dave, a libertarian who cares deeply about being anti-war, to come out here and act like, well, if Trump is a warmonger, then it's like, no, but he already is a warmonger, so shouldn't you already be apologizing? Well, so I would contend that I was right about that, but I do have to say, this is the first Trump supporter I've seen really do a full mea culpa now that Trump has greenlit war with Iran. So first, let's look at what he said a few months back, and then we'll listen to his new commentary now.
And they were like, they'll probably cheer him on if he launches a war in Iran. And then I saw one guy underneath that said, he goes, I know Dave Smith sure will. And okay, it's just like a comment on Twitter, but I was just like blown away. And I'm not blown away by much, but I was like, does anybody actually thinks I would? Just because I'm like, well, I did support this guy, so I'll rationalize and like defend getting in another war in the Middle East. But just for anyone who may have that, I will say this. If Donald Trump actually does launch a war in Iran, not only will I not support it, I will apologize for the rest of my life for voting for the guy. That undoes any positive that might have come out of this. So just to be clear on that. It would be the most disastrous policy, and I just can't even believe, maybe like I didn't even mean it, but I can't believe anyone would think, like, that somehow we're now in the business of just sucking up to Donald Trump.
And let me just say, Dave, the reason why that person said that is because there's a track record among MAGA where when Trump does something that they personally don't like, what they do is they go, oh, Trump was duped by these nefarious forces around him. He didn't really want to do that thing, but he ended up doing that thing because he's getting bad advice from the people around him. So that's why people think that, is because there's always this song and dance and this mental gymnastics that goes into it for virtually every other Trump supporter, where Trump does something evil and horrible and wrong, and they go, well, that doesn't really count because that wasn't him, that was the neocons, that was this person, that was that person. No, like, it is him. He makes decisions. He's a grown-ass man. He's fucking 79 years old. He's doing the shit that he wants to do. Okay, so let's get that clear. But to Dave's credit, as I said, here he is on Breaking Points, and he says the following.
It was in 2007 that the Pentagon told George W. Bush that we cannot go to war with Iran because we do not have escalation dominance against them, essentially meaning that they can hit all of our bases and embassies in the region, and we are very vulnerable to them. And we've already seen demonstrated since the Israeli attack that the Iranian, the missiles that they sent last year toward Israel, as many of us guessed, that wasn't really their best. They were intentionally making an attack that wouldn't really hurt anybody, that wouldn't really lead to a war, which Iran has done over and over again. But now we've pushed them to the point where they probably don't feel that they have the option not to respond. And Donald Trump telling them to come back to the negotiating table now is a joke. Yeah. I mean, what a impotent leader to be sitting there talking about coming back to the negotiating table. It's like sitting after Pearl Harbor and telling FDR, now's the time to go negotiate with the Japanese. Right. Negotiations are over now. The time for negotiations was before this. And so, yeah, Donald Trump looks, and man, I supported him this last year. I apologize for doing so. It was a bad calculation. At the time, it seemed like the right one. But he should be impeached and removed for this one, and not on some not on some ridiculous Nancy Pelosi. Of course, the Congress will never do it because they're all a bunch of corrupt hacks.
This is the one thing they support. This is like
Donald Trump should be impeached and removed for this. All of his supporters should turn on him. It's the absolute betrayal of everything that he ran and campaigned on and everything that he stood for. And I will say, despite the fact that, Donald Trump supporters have been labeled like a cult following, and that certainly is true for a percentage of his supporters, he is going to lose his coalition over this. I know I don't just speak for myself when I say there are a lot of us who simply will not go along with this. So it's just a devastating mistake. By the way, on top of that, he's also going to lose the deportation fight because of this. Because right now he needed all the political capital he could have to turn that, you got a majority support for deportations, but the minority is very mobilized and they're out and they're protesting all around the country. He needed all of his political capital for that move. So here's what we got. The neocons win. More war abroad and, bomb the world and invite the world. No matter who you vote for, you always get John McCain.
So he apologized for supporting Trump, and he said he should be impeached over this. That is the strongest anti-Trump sentiment I've ever heard from a Trump supporter, maybe my entire time following politics. Couple points there, though. He says, well, now he's going to lose the deportation fight because of this. Dave, I got some good news for you, pal. The mass deportations will continue. I don't know if you noticed, but there's ICE raids across the country where they're rounding up innocent people and shipping them out with no due process whatsoever. And in my mind, if anything, it's the opposite. Trump is now going to double down on that and triple down on that because he feels like he's an authoritarian in the corner now, and there's dissent. And so what do they do? What do authoritarians do when they're in the corner like that? They only get more aggressive, right? They don't wilt. They try to take their iron grip on power even harder. And so I genuinely think that if anything, the mass deportations are going to be ramped up. Now my difference with Dave Smith on that is the mass deportations are bad. This is not it would be great if this means, oh shit, now he fumbled the ball and there's no mass deportations and he lost his political capital, etc. But no, I think if anything, the opposite is going to happen. And he also said this is a betrayal of what he campaigned on. But this is the thing, Dave, and this was always my frustration, being the one man in America who was screaming through a megaphone that Trump's a warmonger, is that it's not really a betrayal of what he campaigned on. Because if you listen closely to what he says, half the time he said anti-war shit, and then the other half the time he would say massively pro-war shit. In this campaign, Trump literally, at an event, into a fucking microphone in front of a room of people said, Israel should attack the nuclear sites. That's the places you should attack, is the nuclear sites. That's what you should do. So how these people just sort of write off all the things they don't like that Trump says, this shit needs to be fucking studied, bro. There's something about Trump that makes people, his supporters, just dismiss all the things they disagree with, and only when he says things they agree with, that's when they go, oh, that's what Trump really believes. He really believes the thing that coincides with my views. Because again, it couldn't have been more clear. He said multiple times, and Michael Tracy's been on a tweet storm detailing all these different instances of Trump being a warmonger with Iran in particular. I mean, for fuck's sake, Dave, he pulled out of the Iran nuclear agreement in 2018. The agreement was working perfectly. He literally did that just to spite Obama. He murdered Qasem Soleimani. And by the way, I forgot about this, but it's true. They lured Qasem Soleimani by pretending that he was going to do some diplomatic shit. So this is Trump's trick now, is he pretends oh, I'm going to do diplomacy. And then he murdered the guy. So on top of that, he's always given Israel everything they wanted. He gave them the Golan Heights. He did the Abraham Accords, which were nothing but a massive fuck you to the Palestinians, saying nobody's coming to save you ever. He took $100 million from Miriam Adelson. There's a quid pro quo there about letting the Israelis take over the West Bank. Trump was tweeting that video about turning Gaza into, put casinos and hotels on the beach and put golden statues to him there. And it's him and Netanyahu sipping a mojito by the pool. Like, he could not have made it more clear every step of the way that really the anti-war shit he says is just, he knows that gets a good reaction from the crowd, so he says it. But if you go by the other half the shit he says, but more importantly, his fucking record, it was always so clear that this guy's a warmonger. It wasn't an accident that he staffed his entire first administration with nothing but neocons. And oh yeah, by the way, in the second administration, we got the same shit. We got neocons in the second administration as well. Okay, so now let's listen to some more from Dave.
This is what all of his supporters bragged throughout his first administration and the 4 years after, that there were no new wars under Donald Trump, no new wars in the Middle East. Well, that's over now. And all this talk about how Russia wouldn't have dared done it.
By the way, I can't. The no new wars thing, were all of these people in the Trump bubble, were they completely and utterly unfamiliar with the detailed reactions to that? Mehdi Hassan did a great breakdown of this. I used to talk about it seemingly every fucking day. The guy increased drone strikes over 400%. He kept us in Iraq. He kept us in Afghanistan. It was Joe Biden that had to pull us out of Afghanistan. There was over a 300% increase in civilian deaths in Afghanistan under Trump. He bombed Syria twice. He bombed Somalia. He said we're going to occupy a third of Syria to, quote, take the oil. That's just like rank imperialism and exploitation. He increased the Pentagon budget every single year. He tried to coup Venezuela. He armed Saudi Arabia as they did a genocide. He said on the campaign trail he wants war with fucking Mexico, bro. That's the guy who you thought, the guy who was bragging about how we should do war with Mexico, that's the guy who you thought was going to be anti-war. He said Biden was too weak and wasn't letting Israel finish the job in Gaza. He dropped the Moab on Afghanistan. His first military raid as president killed a young American girl. He pardoned literal war criminals from Blackwater, the mercenary army. He signed pro-torture executive orders. He said in his first campaign that we should, quote, take out the families of terrorists. So the no new wars thing, it's amazing how a slogan sticks in people's minds so thoroughly. And like the literal actual record of what that person has done is just like nowhere to be seen. Wouldn't you think, like, if you care about politics, wouldn't you think that when you hear this no new wars thing, that like the first thing you would do is like a basic fucking Google search? Like, oh, let's see if that's true. Donald Trump's foreign policy record. And just read like anything that's out there and you go, oh, okay. Turns out the no new wars thing is complete horse shit. Well, you don't say. You don't fucking say.
Hamas wouldn't have dared to do it if I had been president. Israel will dare do it. Israel seems to be more emboldened by the fact that Donald Trump's president than they've ever been about anything else. I mean, this is a war that they've wanted for at least the last 30 years. And they only felt emboldened to do it now. So I don't know what I can say other than that's it. That's it for me. I mean, look, Donald Trump, for all the stuff he's been through, and of course, I say this just in principle. Believe me, I know how corrupt the Congress is. I know this will never happen. They actually probably love this about Donald Trump. You know, for all the people who hate Donald Trump, and I mean the people in power, not like someone you know, but say like all the people at CNN or MSNBC or the New York Times or the Washington Post or in the Democratic establishment or the Republican establishment, all the people in the CIA or the FBI or all of them, right? For all, as much as they've hated Donald Trump for the last 8-9 years, they like this. You won't see any impeachment attempts from the leadership, at least, maybe like some rogue elements, but you're not going to see like, Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer leading impeachment.
Unfortunately, I think he's right about that. But let's be clear. The grassroots of the Democratic Party is absolutely screaming for impeachment. They've never been more ready for impeachment. And I should also point out that Tim Kaine offered a resolution saying that this war is illegal, that you absolutely need Congress to approve an act of war in Iran if you're going to do it. And Trump's already doing it. And so, like, there is some attempt from the Democratic side to get some accountability. Right? So let's not miss the forest for the trees here. It's very clear that this is Trump's war. This is Trump's war. Unfortunately, I think he's right that the Democratic establishment and the Republican establishment are basically all in favor of this war. And there's a bit of a MAGA civil war going on right now over Trump's decision to greenlight this war with Iran. But again, let's be clear about it. Most of the people who are saying this is wrong, they're saying, oh, strategically, I don't agree with this, right? Like it's not a moral case. It's not a case based on principles. It's just a really tepid, meek, like, oh, strategically, sir, I'm not sure this is the way to go. And all those people will try to exonerate Trump because Trump was duped and go after the people around him. So it's still, fundamentally, Trump gets away unscathed. Do I think that war with Iran will make his approval rating drop 5 points or so? Yes. Do I think it'll make the actual diehard cult members abandon him? No. I think that, we've talked about this a lot, guys, but I think that Trump's floor is anywhere from 26 to 33% in the country. And the reason I say that is because that's the number that said the U.S. should steal Greenland when pollsters asked them, because that was Trump's thing. Remember, oh, we're going to take Greenland. We're going to own Greenland. And so that 26 to 33% will fucking never, ever leave him. Ever. And that's the part that people need to grapple with. But again, to be fair to Dave, this is the best I've seen from any Trump supporter, where not only does he apologize for voting for him, he's saying he needs to be impeached over this.
This is actually the thing Donald Trump should be impeached for. He should be impeached and removed for this, because either of those two scenarios is just unforgivable. He should, if he had an ounce of integrity, he'd resign himself right now. Let JD Vance get in there. Let's see if maybe he's got a backbone.
That's hilarious that you think there's a fucking snowball's chance in hell of JD Vance having a backbone. That's cute. He's literally Peter Thiel's guy, the billionaire fucking vampire cretin who's creating a giant mass surveillance database, blackmail database on all Americans. That's who JD Vance is. He's a little cuck boy to the fucking tech oligarchs. Believe me, nothing good comes out of him.
If Donald Trump literally tried to not only fool the Iranians, but fool his own supporters into thinking that he was negotiating for peace, and then encouraged an illegal a war of aggression by the Israelis, then he should be impeached and removed. And if he didn't, and Israel has sabotaged the United States of America, and a country who is our welfare queen, a country whose wars we fight for them, whose weapons we supply to them, who we give them $4 billion a year just for existing, not to mention the $3 billion a year we give Egypt to never fight them, or the billions of dollars that we've given to Jordan to never fight them, or the billions of dollars we give to Saudi Arabia or the United Arab Emirates to never fight Israel. All that we've given them, that they would go out of their way to sabotage our peace talks, and then our president would sit there and take it and not correct the record. That's even worse. To be honest, that's even worse. Either way, he should actually be impeached and removed for this. Of course, he won't be. He'll be impeached for a phone call with Zelensky or, whatever, January 6th or something like that, for the nonsense.
For the record here, let's be clear. Trump knew about this. Trump greenlit it. Trump's totally okay with it. And there's further evidence of that, by the way. At a G7 meeting, he was the one person who refused to call for de-escalation in the region. Gee, I wonder why. Could it be because he's a warmonger and because he's taken over $100 million from the Israel lobby and Miriam Adelson? Maybe that has something to do with it. So, yeah, going forward, guys, we're going to see here. My guess is, like I said, he'll drop about 5 points in the polls, so there will be some people who genuinely abandon him. But my guess is most of the media figures, the ones who are not named Dave Smith, the MAGA media figures who are not named Dave Smith, they will not go so far as to say, Trump should be impeached. I apologize for voting for Trump, and Trump should be impeached. But let's be clear. That's what literally all of them should be saying. And the other thing they should be saying is leftists were right all along. The leftists who were screaming that he's a warmonger and his record proves it, and all the anti-war talk is total horseshit, they were right all along. And so in a scenario like that, what would a rational person, the people who were right all along every step of the way about everything, maybe they're the ones who should be running the country. Yes, that's the proper reaction. Hey, y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop, and watch that video on screen right now. You know you want to.